Once again, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you spending these 22 half an hour with us on a Thursday morning. I'm Nick King, and Machiel will be taking us through the Cloud Takeoff and Estimating webinar today, our first one for this year. So, as I mentioned, Machiel will be discussing the basics of cloud-based quantities with Autodesk Takeoff and how to use Sigma Estimates to generate your project estimation. Please feel free to also throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll definitely get through to them at the end. Or if there's anything important that you'd like to speak about sooner, please feel free to also put your hand up, and I'm sure we can assist you with that. So without further ado, just as you can see, a little bit about Modena. Modena AEC Infrastructure has been one of the leading suppliers for software business development and support in architecture, engineering, and construction industries for over 20 years now. And yeah, our main service is to help and assist everybody in every possible way. So after this, I'm going to hand it over to Machiel.
Morning, everyone. So just quickly, a little bit of introduction of myself. As you can see, Nick is just a product marketing officer. Myself, I'm the technical manager and product specialist, especially around the Sigma Estimate. And since the launch of Takeoff about a month ago, it falls part of my product ranges that I specialize in. And the focus is really around the costing and quantity takeoffs that you can do within the platform. So let's go through it. So we have done a previous webinar on Autodesk Takeoff that covers more of the platform as what I would be covering. You'll find in the chat there's a link to the site where you can find all our construction cloud webinars that we've done and will be doing going forward. This webinar will be part of it. So yeah, I'm not going to cover too much on Autodesk Takeoff in this for today. So what we will be looking at from Autodesk Takeoff is kind of the online quantity takeoff principle, the principle of package-based quantities. I'll look a little bit into the 2D and 3D takeoffs and then ultimately export out to Excel. So let's go have a look at it. So the nice thing about Construction Cloud's Autodesk Takeoff, it is a web browser based, so you can do it anywhere as long as you've got an internet connection. It is ideal, or you can only really work on it through a laptop or computer itself. You can't access it through a mobile device of any sort. You most likely would be able through iPad, but I wouldn't really suggest it. So what I'm going to just focus on is the package environment. What you can kind of see is I've just generated four types of packages, 2D and 3D takeoffs. We are mostly going to work in these environments. But you can kind of create or break down however you want to take your different takeoff packages into different segments. Now, one nice feature is, depending on how many you have, you can export all of these packages as one big data set out to Excel, and then you can access that through that space. Now, if we just navigate first into the 2D takeoff environment, now you'll see the 2D and 3D takeoff environment actually has the same logic. So you'll see your models on the side here. And I'm just going to go to a plan section. So I'm not going to access my 3D model at this stage. And as it loads my simple drawing. So we just got a simple house here, or a simple room. And I'll show you in Revit just what it looks like. But I'm not really going to access Revit at this point. This is for the design team. So you can kind of just see I've got actually 4 walls, a roof, a ceiling, and some furniture pieces on the inside. And that's what I'm seeing basically in this view. So you can see my plan doesn't show all my furniture pieces, but it shows my 4 walls and that information. Then I've started doing some takeoffs in here. So if I go to my next tab, the takeoff types, I can identify what type of takeoffs I want to do. So maybe I want to just quickly do let's see, what do you want to do? Maybe we want to do a linear wall measurement. So I can say I want to take a new takeoff. It's going to be a wall measurement. And depending on how you typically do it, you've got your different 2D takeoff styles. So you've got an area, a line base, or a count value. So in this case, I'm going to do linear. You can see it gives me an appearance style. I can choose my nice little color, whatever I want to do. And then ultimately you choose a classification system. Now I've set up a classification for this project, very simple, not too extensive. And it just covers like a few areas. So under my walls, I can see I've got some brick walls, I've got some concrete walls. And in my brick walls, I've got a general one and a feature wall. Now I know this wall is actually a feature wall. So I can just select my feature wall, and you can see it's been measured in square meters currently. And because I'm doing a linear measurement, I can change it to become a meter measurement. And then basically I can say start takeoff. And I can just kind of click on where that wall would run. And then just click enter, and I've got a measurement. And you can see it automatically picked up that this wall measurement I've done is 5.43 meters. And that's basically the principle how I've set up all the other items. My door and window one, the same principle. I can go back and edit it. And you can see I initiated a circle form. And it's just the colors, and just assign a classification system to it, and then ultimately just plonk down the numbers of where I wanted them, or the symbols. Same with the windows. Now on my floor, I've applied an area one. We can kind of see there's a little bit of a problem, and this could be maybe a version change, revision to the area, or whatever the case might be. You can always come back and actually edit any of your measurements. So if I know this needs to be actually extended to this wall, I can just move it, and you can see how it automatically is adjusting my area measurement. So there we go. So you can always come back and change any of your estimation processes, especially when you get new drawings from the consultant. You can kind of edit that and come back to it. And that's kind of the simple functionality of the 2D takeoff. I'm not going to go too much more in depth on this front. And now I'm going to navigate to the 3D takeoff. Now again, I have started some of the takeoff processes. So I'm going to first navigate to the file I want to work with. So my webinar model. And there I get a little room. And you can see the room has all, the buildings have been kind of colored already. Now as you are doing takeoffs of these elements, it will actually color them according to kind of the block coloring on the side here. Now again, you can do a whole building in one takeoff, or you can break it up into different packages. This, because it's a simple project, I'm grouping all of it together. Now what's nice is I can select a window. You can see there's a nice selection. I can go look at its properties. And I can see, what's the name of this item, what's the type name. We can extend this and scroll down. We can get some information. So the sill height, what level it's on, what wall thickness is it hosted to, and a lot of proper information. And this is where the BIM information coming from. It's coming from the model itself. So you don't actually have to necessarily go figure out, did the guys name it correctly? You can actually pull that information from the model, which is nice. And so if I want to start doing a takeoff on this, I can just go and say, right click on the window itself, select all, and it selects all my windows in the whole project. So you can imagine how much time you're saving. Now I can just say, do a takeoff. I can say this will be a window. And now you can see, again, you can come back to do your 2D takeoffs. However, if you're selecting something from a 3D model, it's actually picking up the BIM information. Hence, the little last block has been selected. I can give it a colorful. So once the takeoff is completed, my windows will change to this shape. And again, I can specify a classification system. So here I can say it's a window. I just named it an aluminium window. Again, I can see it's a count each, and if you need to do something else, you can change those measurements. And now I can say start takeoff. And you can see it's already picked up, there's 3 windows. And just to finish it off, you just select the tick mark. And now I've started my quantity takeoff, or basically quantify those windows. Now, what's nice is you can kind of go and see what has been taken off, by maybe managing your model. So I can come in here and say, switch off my basic walls. What don't want to see my windows and my doors, just to kind of get a feel of what's been applied and what's not. I can also have a look here and see, you know what, I haven't applied anything to a ceiling. So I can select my ceiling, create a new takeoff. This will be a ceiling, and apply it to my drop down one more. It's going to be a drop-in ceiling general, square meter, start takeoff, and again, tick mark to finish the process. And there we go. So it feels simple enough. It feels like it's, you know, really user-friendly and everything like that. But it only feels that way because we're working on a smaller project. What if you've got, you know, a block of flats you need to quantify? What if you need to do an office block and it's got everything from furniture to floor finishes to wall finishes, every component? You can't really navigate maybe that easily through a view like this. So one of the more functionality features is we can group this into different clusters. So one of the nice features at the bottom, form clusters. The moment you hit it, it'll actually break up your model into different segments. And I always forget about this, but it helps if everything is on. And just do that again. And now I can see all my walls are clustered together, all my furniture pieces, and I'll give you the labels. So here's my ceilings, here's my floors, generic models, windows. So no matter how the guys model inside Revit, it ultimately comes back down to you can see the information and you can grab it. Now I did this on purpose. You can see 3 of my chairs are sitting there and 1 chair is there. It's very likely that you can find that problem working within your environment. So I can go here and say right click, select all chairs, selects those 3. But I can also select this one by just keeping control on my keyboard, and I can do a multi-select. So now I can do a chair takeoff, so furniture, chairs, office chair, start takeoff, and I can see there chairs, 4 of them. So complete the transaction, and now all 4 of them have been grouped as one takeoff in itself. And the same with my last element. Let me just double check. So floors. So I actually have captured this floor. Okay. What's typically nice, even if you want to create a takeoff or something, it'll give you a warning that this has already been attached to a takeoff in itself. So it's you can kind of avoid doing double takeoffs from the system. Okay. So yeah, then that's kind of taking BIM takeoffs. Now you can imagine, you know, bigger project files, you can have columns, everything will be grouped into their specific areas, and you can track what you've been taking off and what's not. Especially if you're doing packages and your packages, one package only contain walls, you know you only have to focus on this element. As such. Okay. Now once you've done your takeoff, we can view our information from our inventory list. And this will bring up your takeoffs into your list of information. Now I can see my name, account, quantity, unit, classification, and document. But you can also play around with the grouping system. So I've only been working with the primary classification. You can have a secondary classification. If you've got multiple files you're working off, 2D and 3D, I can split it into my document, and I'll be able to see, you know, what model am I working with? Is there specific sheets I'm quantifying from? All that information. And you can do a takeoff type, which will break it up into kind of just a general grouping of information. There's a good way of doing it. And you can also, if I select something, I can see the selection of all the walls within the system. So ultimately there's 3 walls, and if I select it here, you can see it's highlighting in that view itself. And I can just see where those takeoffs are living within my project. Okay. So once you're happy with kind of how you want to see your information, I'm going to export a primary classification. We can just export this out to Excel. There you go. And I can open up my Excel spreadsheet to view that classification system. Now this one, I just want to check, is there any questions from anyone? So example, how do you quickly measure narrow widths, for example? Sorry, can you explain a little bit on what you mean by narrow widths? And while I'm just waiting for that info to come through, any other questions from Takeoff's side of things? Okay, so going into the Sigma estimates. So Sigma Estimates is a quantity takeoff, an estimating platform. It's been around for, I don't know how long. It's been developed by QSs for QSs, and it's really around, the focus is around the 5D takeoff. I'm not focusing on this feature today, but it has a built-in plugin for Revit itself, so the quantities can be taken off Revit models and not just the way we're going to showcase today. What I'm going to show you guys is kind of the library-based estimation, how recipes can assist in quickly costing a project, what it looks like. It has a really good look and feel of Excel, and kind of how it integrates with Excel at the end of the day. Because ultimately, we're getting an Excel file, and it might be different projects, different environments, subcontractors, whatever the case might be, might provide you an Excel file. So how does it really work? So let's showcase that. So for this project, I'm just going to start off on our little template, which is kind of just a blank slate. And I'm just going to quickly go through the tabs. So on our front page, you can kind of put in your project information, number, what phase you're busy in, etc. You got some estimation information of what's our budget, gross area budget, meter square, project start, and things like that, and contract information, or contact information, and some notes and files. So the idea of the front page is you can customize it within Sigma to just capture the essence of this project. Now, what we will navigate to is our content page. So this is where we want to place our estimation information. So if I go back to Excel, I'm just going to enable editing. We do want to go have a look at, kind of our information on the side here and bring that in. Now, one of the things that I always recommend is when you do work with Excel information, and the tool I'm going to show you guys, is really about creating a structure. So I normally call this my position. So this will be typically 1, 1.1, 1.1, 1.1.2. And I'm just going to go through this so you guys can see it doesn't take really that long. It should be 3.1. And this one we can keep on that level. So I can go 3.2, 3.4, 3.5, and 3.6. And then this will be my 4 and 4.1. And then 5 and 5.1. Okay. And the rest of them, the ones I don't need, I can basically just select and delete them out. So anything that doesn't have a number, delete. Okay. There you go. So that's sufficient enough. Okay, and all you have to do really to start pulling this into Sigma Estimates is by grabbing the information you want to have. So I really need the position, the name of the elements I want to work with. So I missed one here, so I can delete that one as well. So the name of the element, I need the quantity, the unit of measurement, and then ultimately the code. Because the code is what we're going to use for our library takeoffs. Actually, this is going to be a problem. Let's do this, 3.2. There we go. So I just have to make sure that my codes do exist in the areas where it matters. Okay, and this brick one, I'm not too concerned because I've got two lower tier elements. However, I don't need these two. Okay, there we go. And I can just grab this information, copy that. So normal Control C in Excel, go back to Sigma. From our data tab, I have a page from Excel functionality. And this is one of the huge benefits if you're getting information from Excel-based projects. I can now go and say this column, that will be equivalent to my position. This will be my text. This will be the quantity I'm measuring. This will be my unit measurement. And then this will be my number. And I know this formula or this kind of setup. And if I bring it in, we can kind of start seeing information. So if I go to brick walls, I can see I'm getting a quantity. And if I go down a tier level, I can see there's all my brick walls in there. And you can kind of navigate through them. And I can see all that information coming through now in that level. Now, the big item is you might just have to do a little bit of cleanup, either in Excel or in Sigma itself, making sure that higher tier levels doesn't have the number system. Because ultimately, we're going to use this matching up with a library. So I'm just quickly going to navigate through this, just double checking everything is fine. I need to remove that, that, and that. And then just double check my window. There we go. And my ceiling. Okay. So that looks correct to me. Okay. So that's the first part. Now I've got my estimation or my estimate or the quantities I've taken into Sigma. And now I need to run my estimation. So I've created a library. And ultimately a library is your data set, your quantities for a project, previous projects, any historical data or any relevant data that you're just putting into a standard library. Now, ultimately, these are built up as a recipe. So for instance, if I go look at my brick wall, there's my 230mm brick wall general. And if I go into that, that consists of a brickwork, a brick layer that's measured in labor hours, square meters, and you can add more items here. So there might be mortar. This might be again a material item. This might be measured again, maybe square meter, whatever the case might be. You can put a unit cost in there, say, and I'm not good with pricing, but I can just type it in and you can see the cost updating. Now this is in my library. Everything I'm doing in my library is the same principle inside your estimation. If you need to add anything else, I mean, there's a physical 3D geometry. I can go and say, we want to have a G account. This will be site works. And in here, I can add, let's just minimize this. And I can add here, this might be bulk earthworks. It will be maybe, for now, let's keep it blank. But I can come in here into bulk earthworks and I can add, excavation, labor we require for this, whatever the case might be. And as I build up this information, I can add a category, a unit to it, the quantity, the unit cost. So typically a quantity might be for one. What's the excavation for 1 day? So the unit might be daily. And the category is then based on labor. And I can say for 1 day, it might be 3,500 Rand. And that maybe includes the equipment and the personnel that needs to be part of it. It might be more. There might be some additional labor we need on the project, just people walking around. And that might also be a daily measurement. And this might be a lot less and might be something like 2,000 Rand for the labor. It might be 5 people that we're getting for 2,000 Rand per day. And we can automatically see how our total cost adds up. Now, this is great if you had to compare it to Excel-based items where formulas might break and things like that. If I go a level back up, I can see my bulk earthworks is based on 13,500 for quantity 1. So if I knew what my area was, so this is a square meter. and I say the area that we need to do is about 250 square meters, we can see what our total cost will be. And this might be now materials, work, or whatever the case might be. And you can measure and build this up however you need to. So coming back to our information, now I've made sure that this code from our classification with our library is the same. So again, if I open up our library at the top, you can see the green means library. And I go to my wall, I can see A1.1 is the same for this one. Now, the biggest benefit of the setup is, if I go update from library, I can select what am I looking at. So I want to match this number from my estimate with the number from my library. And I basically say update. And I need to just make sure I select the correct file, update, and 10 items have been updated within my project. And there we go. Basically, short of it, if I go to my project, I can see what has been updated. I can see my window didn't update, and I can go investigate why this was a case. And my window in itself didn't have a cost within my estimation or in my library. The reason being, it might be that we need to quote for this and we need to get a figure from whoever's going to manufacture the window and install them or whatever the case might be. But it was as quick as that, just to get our project updated through using a library that matches our classification system within Takeoff. Now, just some other perks. Once you've set up your Sigma project correctly, you get a lot of other information from it. So if we navigate to the summary tab, we can now see an estimation value of a project being at 4.7 million. And I can see by category, what is all those elements? What's the measurement? What's the cost and things like that. If I go to my resources tab, I can see I'm breaking it down by equipment, labor, materials. You can say, oh yeah, we might have to check there's a spelling mistake or whatever the case might be in our project. It even goes as deep as looking into my subcategories. So what's the wall itself, what's the brickwork, and what's the quantities for those elements. Lastly, some insight information where we can kind of go look at what's my activities currently on this project. And I can see my equipment, there's 8 of them, and there's that information for the equipment. You also have an option of creating a key figures tab, which is like a summarized version of this project that, you know, for stakeholders and things like that. And you can export this one to Excel. Now, that's kind of the essence of Sigma. And kind of the workflow I wanted to showcase how you can integrate your quantity takeoffs from Autodesk Takeoff into your estimating tool like Sigma Estimates. Any questions around Sigma, Autodesk Takeoff? Hannes, I don't know if you want to also kind of just expand on how do you quickly measure narrow widths, for example? Nick, is there a way of getting...
Yeah, let me see here quickly. Sorry, just a sec. Sorry, Hannes, I will be with you in a second.
Any other questions?
Okay, for now, Machiel, I had questions here. One question is, can Sigma export Excel?
Yeah, so Sigma has the full capabilities of exporting information. So I can export to Excel from my current page or advanced setup, which will look at all my tiers within my project and export that out. You can also export to MS Projects and Word and a CSV. So quite a variety of exporting tools, but you can also generate your own reports from within Sigma Estimates. So if you need to create a tender documentation, these are some standard ones coming with Sigma, but ultimately you can customize these to export different methods, how you need to do it.
Okay. Okay, then I see we have a question from Tando. Do you need Sigma to always work with Sigma?
Tando, if I understand it correctly, you need a Sigma license to work with Sigma, but you don't need a Sigma license to work with Autodesk Takeoff. Yeah, I figured as, I mean, Takeoff. No, yeah. So these two products are exclusively different. They're from different manufacturers or developers. So you don't need Takeoff to work with Sigma.
Okay. And then we have a question from Michael. If I use Takeoff, do I need to use one of the new BIM Collaborate licenses?
No. So the licensing basically works. If you buy Takeoff, you can operate only on Takeoff. You don't have to buy a build license or a Collaborate Pro or Collaborate license. Takeoff has its own pricing with the system in itself.
Okay, so another question, Machiel. Can I do multiple Sigma projects into one?
Yes. So there is a way of combining your projects into one environment. I need to actually. It's one of those tools I don't really use that often, but you can basically copy paste from one Sigma file into this one, and you can also compare between two files. So ideally, if you're doing, let's say, a package takeoff with in Takeoff, and you're exporting your different packages, it might be also good to have different Sigma files and then just copy paste them all into one big one.
Okay, cool. Okay, thanks, Machiel. And then another question from Tando is, can you please share this with me to show our QSs?
Yes, the webinar will be accessible through the link shared earlier in the webinar, but we'll also share out the link once it's up for you guys to share with your QS's team or anyone else you want to share with.
And then I think this might be the last question if there's no more. With Autodesk Takeoff, can I use it separately from other client hubs or projects?
Yeah, so if you're working on a project and the guys are working in a more, let's say, traditional way with an FTP, whatever the case might be, you don't need to have that access on your system. It can really be just you using Takeoff in itself or Sigma Estimate, and you're just getting the files from the consultants, uploading it into Takeoff, and then using it from there. I see there's a question from Michael also.
Yeah.
Does Takeoff work with the old BIM 360 platform? No. Takeoff is based on the ACS platform, so that is it is its own environment in the cloud, so it doesn't integrate with BIM 360. But the principle is, as I explained, with more traditional ways with FTP, you can just download the model on the BIM 360 from a BIM 360 project and upload it into your Takeoff environment and then work with it from there. Tando, yes, we can definitely arrange a demo and discussion with your QS.
100%, yeah. And Hannes, I must apologize. We can't seem to get the mics working for attendees, but myself and Machiel will definitely be in touch with you to help you after this. Okay. All right. Looks like those are all the questions also from my side, Machiel. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending this morning. I think it was very informative all around, and Takeoff is, even from my side, it's always interesting to see how technology is always improving things. And I hope you guys enjoyed how Takeoff and Sigma Estimates can work very, very well together. And thanks again, Machiel, for this.
No problem. Hannes, just kind of on the comment, we can set up a call to discuss kind of what your question is in Revit. Take, for example, a base, the last question you've asked. I think it's more of a bigger demonstration than what we have time for in the webinar. But yeah, we can definitely talk about that. Okay, thank you everyone from my side. Hope it was informative, and then we'll catch you on the flip side.
Shame. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.